Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and you probably know everything that I'm about to say because I already had an episode come up just a couple hours ago. Because, as I said in the previous episode, this is a catch-up week. Normally on Comic Class, I like to talk about the brand new issues that are coming out on that day. However, there's nothing really that huge coming out. Thank God, because I need a week like this every now and again. Because every now and again, there is a huge book that I really want to talk about, but then there is another bigger book coming out that week. Or there's some other big topic that needs to be covered. Not this week. This week, I actually finally get to go and talk about some of the things that I've been wanting to cover. And today, what I'm going to talk about is Mr. Miracle. Yes, you guys have probably all been hearing about this. It's gotten some of the highest ratings and reviews from critics of almost any new book this year. It's by Tom King, who currently, love him or hate him, he is a big deal in the comic book industry right now. I had to throw that in there because even though I really enjoy the guy, I have a couple of customers and coworkers who are hating his Batman right now. I honestly don't know how I feel about his Batman right now. However, everything that he's doing aside from his Batman, oh my gosh, that dude knocks it out of the park. And with Mr. Miracle, it's no exception. His Mr. Miracle, and this is coming from a guy who is not a big Mr. Miracle fan, it blew me away. Okay, now for anybody who has never seen one of these episodes before, basically what I do is I go step by step and give you a play-by-play of every single thing that happens in the issue. Then I give you all my thoughts and my analysis of everything that happened in that issue. I'm not going to do that today. Instead, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what you need to know about this book, and then I'm going to go into my analysis because honestly, I think the stuff that isn't on the paper is way more interesting than the stuff that is on the paper. Although, there is some really interesting stuff there on the paper. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, over at DC Comics, they have two planets that are basically inhabited by gods. They've got New Genesis, which is the peaceful, heaven-like planet full of all the nice, sparkly, clean gods. And then they got Apocalypse, which is ruled over by Darkseid, and you all know Darkseid. Seriously, even if you have never picked up a comic in your life, you probably know who Darkseid is. So it is basically the Hell planet. And these two planets have been at war forever. But they had a little bit of a peace treaty going for a while when Darkseid agreed to exchange one of his sons with one of Highfather's sons, and the two of them would raise each other's sons, and that would be what would keep their plans from tearing each other apart. Mr. Miracle was the son of Highfather who got sent over to Apocalypse, and he was basically just tortured and beaten and abused throughout his entire life, so he spent his entire life learning how to escape, learning how to break out of traps. So he has become the world's greatest escape artist. And he actually broke out of New Genesis with his now wife, Big Barda, who was one of Apocalypse's soldiers, but she eventually realized, thanks to Mr. Miracle, oh, this guy's actually a jerk, and he's a monster, and I don't have to do what he says. I can be my own independent woman, and I can go and beat his ass just like Superman and all those other heroes out there. Now, what this series is about is it starts with Mr. Miracle basically just letting the world know he tried to commit suicide. And the issue actually opens up with a very detailed image of him actually trying to slit his own wrist. Yeah, for anybody out there who is disturbed by that kind of imagery, this might not be the book for you. Like, this is one of those books that it's not a Vertigo series. It really should be a Vertigo series. Like, it almost feels like DC is ashamed to put any of their DC proper characters into their Vertigo line, but this really feels like one of those old school Vertigo books where they would just take DC characters and go, let's do the dark, edgy take on them. That's exactly what this feels like. Because, yeah, it is about him basically admitting to the world he tried to commit suicide, and he gives off many reasons. Like, he tries to joke about, like, hey, I'm the world's greatest escape artist, so I tried to escape death. I tried to go face to face with death, and then I tried to walk away from it all. See, it was just a joke, everybody. I wasn't actually trying to kill myself. But it becomes real obvious when you see his home life, and you see him and Big Barda just hanging out at home. Yeah, he is suffering from depression. He is suffering from PTSD. He is suffering from every single type of mental stress that you can imagine. And when you think about the life that Mr. Miracle has had, when you think about the fact that his father just gave him up to go to hell and be tortured throughout his entire life, yeah, he would have that. But also, He is a guy who his greatest, I don't want to say joy, but his greatest passion in life was escaping. It was finding out how to escape from anything, and he has now escaped from everything. And it also kind of deals with that feeling of he's numb. Nothing is new or special to him anymore. He can be put into the most unescapable black hole trap of all time. He's out in 5 seconds because he's just that good. Nothing really entertains him. Nothing really excites him anymore. So he's basically got the stress of everything that he went through in his entire life combined with just the numbness of nothing entertain him anymore. This book really covers that feeling of depression, of just not having anything, of just being numb so incredibly well. And you see other characters trying to interact with him, trying to get him back up and into the fight, especially Orion. Orion comes in and just starts slapping him down and then telling him to stand back up. And he stands back up, slaps him back down, tells him to stand back up. He stands back up, slaps him back down. And Big Bar is just like, leave him the fudge alone. He just needs to recover. He does not need this crap right now. But at the end of issue number 1, they discover that Highfather has died because Apocalypse has now declared war on New Genesis. Darkseid is taking out Highfather. Every single god is being called to arms. Mr. Miracle has to go back in there, and he just says, I can't do this because I'm not right. I'm seeing things that aren't there. Listen, you don't know how screwed up I am. And then Big Bar just slaps him and goes, get back up, get back up. And he's like, all right, and back up. Like he just goes full on soldier mode. Like he just goes, abandon all those problems I have, just go in there and face what I have to fight. Now that's basically what happens in issue number 1. And issue number 2, he goes to war with Apocalypse. You see him fighting parademons. You see that Orion is now the new king of New Genesis, and he's sending Mr. Miracle on a mission to kill Granny Goodness, the, I don't want to call him motherly figure for him, but basically the woman that raised him in the torture pits of Apocalypse. And he has to go and murder her, but now he's starting to go, well, wait, maybe he actually wanted me to die in here. Maybe this was a suicide mission. Maybe he's trying to get me out of the way. So now he's starting to wonder, well, who can I actually trust? Is Orion actually on my side? Did he start all this so that he could take out Highfather and he could become the new leader of New Genesis? So there's actually a lot going on. This is going to be a 12-part storyline, and I'll admit, when I was getting close to the end of issue number 2, I was like, how are you going to stretch this out over 12 issues? This seems like a 6-issue thing. But then when they introduced that element to it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a very complex storyline. However, as I said, I think the most interesting stuff in here is the stuff that isn't even on the page. And I mean that for 2 reasons. First off is for the comic book reason. Because for anybody who knows Darkseid, he's been looking for this thing called the anti-life equation. And the anti-life equation is one of those things that it can kind of change meaning depending on who is writing about it. Like every writer has their own different take on it. But the main thing that the anti-life equation has been all this time is it's basically absolute depression. It is just a feeling of absolute nothingness. It's this thing that when someone experiences it, they will just lose all willpower and just become a slave. Like you lose all sense of self, all sense of personality, all hope, all reason to fight, and you will basically be a slave to Darkseid. That's the thing that I am finding so interesting about this book right now. Because Darkseid is trying to get that anti-life equation, and as I said, the anti-life equation is absolute darkness. It's absolute depression and hopelessness. This thing starts off with Mr. Miracle having no joy, no passion, no love for anything, and they briefly mention in there that it kind of started after he went up against Darkseid. I'm really wondering if any of this is happening. I honestly think there's a good chance nothing in this book is actually happening outside of Mr. Miracle's head. Mr. Miracle is the world's greatest escape artist. I think this 12-issue series is him escaping the anti-life equation. I think he has been inflicted with it, so he is suffering absolute depression. It's him now having to escape this thing that is trying to take all hope away from him. And there are other things in here, aside from that brief mention in the first issue about the anti-life equation, that do serve as little tiny hints about what this could be. Tom King, every writer has their own thing that they do, their own thing that makes them stand out. Tom King's is repetition. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like that's one of the problems that many people have with his current Batman run. A lot of people say Batman sounds like a robot. The main reason Batman sounds like a robot is because he does just repeat things in the same monotone voice over and over and over again in every single one of those issues. And yeah, it makes him seem kind of lifeless, kind of like he has no personality. However, he does that in the Mr. Miracle series, and it actually works. Like, they keep repeating in these little black panels, Darkseid is, Darkseid is. Like, they just keep repeating that over and over again. And yeah, when I look at that, it feels like the anti-life equation trying to inflict Mr. Miracle with that need to be obedient to Darkseid. Like, it's him in his mind living out this scenario, and then that little voice just comes in there and it's basically going, serve Darkseid. And towards the end of issue number 2, when he's starting to now think, oh shoot, could Orion really be the villain? It's like, oh, that's him now starting to go even further down the road of, should I be teaming up with Darkseid and working with Darkseid? But the other thing that really makes me love this series, and really makes me go, oh, this isn't just a story, this is actually something really special that is coming from a real personal place, is that Tom King, before he started writing comics, he was a CIA officer over in Iraq. Yeah, this is a guy who has actually been in combat. This is a guy who has actually seen big wars being fought up close and personal. And now you have got Mr. Miracle going into war, and he's like, oh, I see so much in here. Like, this isn't just depression, it is PTSD. Like, it is Mr. Miracle talking about all the stuff that he's seen in his life, and it's like, that coming from any other writer would be like, oh, this is coming from a really interesting place. When it comes from the guy who probably has seen a lot of this stuff himself, it's like, oh, this takes on a totally different meaning. This becomes a very personal story, even if it isn't personal to Tom King, because from what I understand, he did do a lot of his work actually on the base, actually training soldiers rather than going in there himself. He at least talked with people and probably heard this stuff from them. He probably heard many of them mentioning this stuff to him, and that feeling of that Mr. Miracle has of, well, everything's just kind of numb to me. That's how lots of soldiers feel when they actually do come back from war, because after you've been in a warlike scenario, for anybody who has seen The Hurt Locker, the cereal owl, that's all I need to say to you. For anybody who has seen that film, you know the scene with the cereal owl. That's kind of what this book is as well. It's him going, I don't feel anything anymore because I've already experienced all of this stuff. But there are other moments in here that make me really go, he's definitely pulling from some of his experience in combat. Like, there are those moments in which he is saying, I can't do this, I can't go back out there, and they just tell him, get back up, and it's like, he had to kind of go into soldier mode there. He had to kind of just go, I am a soldier, I'm going to go out there on this mission. I know that that's something that a lot of soldiers have to do as well. A lot of soldiers, when they're about to face their breaking point, they kind of have to just go, just shut it all down for now. Just shut it down, release it at another time, just shut it down until the mission is over with. And yeah, I think he captures that so incredibly well in here. Like I said, one thing that Tom King loves to do, one thing that really defines the way that he writes, is he loves repetition, and there are those times that does not work, but in issue number 2, he had to go out there, and Orion was just going, we need you over at this point, I'm on my way, we need you over here, got it, we need you over here, got it, we need you over here, I'm going, back and forth, just non-stop, we need you, we need you, we need you, we need you. That's the way that a lot of soldiers feel. I have to run from one combat situation to another combat situation, and there's no breaks, it's just over and over, just repetitive combat, just blowing up in your face. Yeah, that's the way that a lot of soldiers feel. That's what many soldiers actually have to go through, and he put that on the page. Like, again, if you don't know this stuff about Tom King, you might not have gotten that out of this issue, but if you do know that about Tom King, holy cow, it's impossible to read this and not feel that personal touch in there. That little, like, this is coming from a real place. And the fact that he actually took that and applied it to the New Gods, which is one of the biggest, wildest, craziest, most imaginative ideas in the DC universe, and he made it so small and personal. And when I say small, I don't mean like, it's not a big important thing. I mean like, space gods, something that is really happening to people. He made that a thing that feels human. I shouldn't have said small, I should have said human. That's the word. He made space gods human with this. In fact, you see that all throughout this. I actually really love the way that he is actually writing Big Barda and Mr. Miracle just when they're at home. Because, yeah, you think they're space gods, they're out there living some big, crazy, adventurous life. I love that it just goes, nah man, they're people. They're people who have suffered, who have seen things, they're people who have their own doubts, their own fears, their own suspicions. I'm going to show that. I'm going to show them just living their life, and I love that I actually show them just on the couch with each other. Just, they're sitting there in their Sunday afternoon, I didn't want to actually put on real clothes outfits, where they're just sitting there like, oh god, I don't want to do anything today. It made them feel like real people. I mean, there's a thing in the second issue where Big Barda, Mr. Miracle, is complimenting her and saying that she's so beautiful and lovely, and she just goes, I'm too tall. And I was like, Big Barda would never ever ever say I'm too tall, because she's one of the most confident characters in comics, but he put that like doubt, that like human feeling to her. That human feeling of, yeah, all human beings out there have some kind of a doubt about their body. Some kind of a like, oh well, there's this one thing that I don't like. So it's like, man, he really wanted to humanize the new gods. He absolutely did it. But yeah, so you guys have been hearing so many people talking about the Tom King Mr. Miracle series, and I had to finally get my 2 cents in there. I'm glad that I finally had a week where I could actually do that. But my 2 cents is, this book is amazing right now. I am absolutely loving it. I will say, I think it's being overblown a little bit. Like, I know everybody out there was like, this is the greatest book of the year. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far yet, but top 10. I definitely put it in my top 10 at the moment. So yeah, I absolutely applaud this book. I'm really being blown away by it. I cannot wait to see where it goes. And again, I'm really just shocked that this is going to be 12 issues long. But again, at the end of issue number 2, I'm not shocked because I don't see how he could do it. I'm shocked because I do see how he could do it. I'm shocked that there is actually going to be a story involving these characters going through this journey, and it actually feels like, yeah, you can fill up 12 issues with that. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of this issue. I'm sure that many of you have your own thoughts and your own takes and your own interpretations of it, so I'd love to hear each of those. You can also let me know on Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. And if you enjoyed this issue, make sure that you give us a thumb up and share these videos around the web. It is the best way to help our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.